So what you can see in my palette up here are some mixed colours from my little swatches that I did last week. So I'm extracting some colour out from my photograph. I'm going to paint in this area here. I'm not going to go into this area quite yet. I'm going to paint the neck in here and then paint the edge of the jumper back over. I've got my photograph here, and then I've got my printout of my Jenny Saville so that I can see that more yellowy orangey pink colour, those colours, those almost fluorescent colours. And you can see that I've added some paint to my palette which I wasn't using last time. So I've got quite a lot of information in front of me, and I'm going to be looking at all of that as I work through painting this flesh. So I've got my colour swatches to the right, you can't quite see those. And I'm going to be looking at all of those things, using what I see in the photograph as well as what I know. So for me, I'm going to start with this slightly paler yellow, and I'm going to go in to this area just beside the vase, and then come round. That grey is dry now, so that's not going to interfere with my pale yellow. And because my pale yellow has got so much white in it, when I add it onto the paper, I can see my tonal marks through from underneath. So that's really useful, because that means I can use those in a minute to add in the surfaces and get that three-dimensional quality, which is what I really want. Even though I am planning for my flesh tones to have those luminous pinks and oranges within, I'm still going to start with this fairly pale yellow. I don't want to go too dark too soon. So I'm looking across at my palette from last week. I'm adding in a little bit of burnt sienna there to get a little bit more tone in. And I'm going to start to add in the darker areas that I can see through my pale yellow. So I'm just laying down areas of tone, trying to keep it all quite subtle at the moment and fairly blended. So the inner ear there looking a bit darker. I'm going to come down underneath the earlobe, keep that edge nice and clear, and then just around the edge of the flesh that goes underneath and behind that jumper, coming in again with a clean brush. I'm going to take a little bit of the pink. I think I need to add in a little bit of brown so it's not too rosy. And this paint is still a little bit damp, which is what I want. I want to be able to blend that in. For you guys, it'll be easier maybe to turn your books or turn your paper so that you get a better angle when you're painting. Don't forget that little bit in there. So the detail is there, but it's not photographic, so it's accurate. We can see where the tone is. Okay, I'm going to wash off my brush. At this point, if you feel things need blending, make sure your brush is dry and just pat those colours together to make them tonal. If you feel that, for example, the edge of the ear is not standing out enough, go back to that original really pale yellow and add a much lighter tone, almost white actually, to the top of the ear, and you can make that paint a little bit textural just to make it look as if it's in front of the earlobe that's behind. And I'm going to do the same down here. I'm not outlining it, I'm just making that stand out. Now I'm going to go in with a couple of my brighter colours. So these are the colours now that are not within my photograph, but they are in my Jenny Saville image. So I'm going much, much brighter. And I'm just going to go gently to start with, just little bits of those oranges here and there, not too much. I've got my tone underneath. I'm happy with my tone that I've added. So patting that through. This all looks a bit yellow over here, so I'm going to put some in there. And I'm going to use the pink as, in this instance, like the darker tones almost. So I'm going to use the pink in there. Remember I said I was going to put the hair back over the top on that part. Even here, just some blobs of pink. I'm really looking at this image now. Get some tone underneath that ear. And a little bit of pink into there. Some of it's feeling as if it's not blending. It's sort of sitting on top. So I'm going back to my fleshy tones. And I'm just going to make that colour blend in parts. Maybe there. I need to put some dark into the edge of that ear. My ear looks a bit yellow down here, so I'm going to add in a little bit of that pink, make it look a bit more fleshy. I'm going to leave that white up there. I'm going to put some hair back over there. So it's just this edge here. As I'm reading the painting, I'm thinking that's not quite defined enough, so I'm just going in with a little bit of the darker neon in there, and I'm going to use some white like I did on the top of the ear, just to make this part stand out from that pink that I've just put on. And the paint's really thick. I might need to take a little bit of that off, like that. And then I'm going to come back over to my jumper and I'll put the jumper back over the top of the neck because it's in front. I'm using a brighter blue for the jumper because I want it to stand up to that neon orange and pink that I've added. And that's a little bit darker behind there because the ear is in front. And also it's a little bit darker down here because we want him to look as if he's behind the table, but I want to use my brush marks. I'm trying to make all my mark making link really. So use my brush marks there and give that bit of texture. Just sort out that little bit down there.